Good morning. This is a meeting of the Hart Government Affairs and Legal Matters Committee. I'm calling this meeting to order. It is 8:40. Michelle Brungraber has been delayed, so I'm appointing the chair, Colleen Hanabusa, to sub in for her so that we have a quorum. Before we start, is there any public testimony on the agenda? Anything online? Nada. Okay, so we essentially have one item on the agenda, which is...
Roll call.
Oh, thank you. Let's do the roll call. I'm here. Ed Sniffen is excused, I guess. Michelle Brungraber is on her way, is a little bit late, is delayed. Roger Morton.
Present.
Thank you. So we have a quorum.
The rest of the members.
I'm sorry?
You can call them all.
Oh, we do. Okay. I'll acknowledge the other members here: Edwin Young, Robert Yu,
Natalie.
and Natalie Wasser is online. Hi, Natalie.
And Kika just walked in.
And Kiko Kukasi's just walked in as well.
And me. And me.
And Colleen Hanabusa, our esteemed chair. You responded as being present. So we have one item on the agenda, which is to review and take action on the proposed settlement of the Shimmick Taylor Granite contract. Nate and Kathleen, do you want to say anything in public? I assume we're going to want to go into executive session on this. Nothing?
No, good.
So
Move to go to executive session.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded that we go into executive session. Hearing no objection, so ordered. All right, we're now in executive session. How do we handle this, Olelo? Are we exiting the room?
Well, we
Do we go
could.
into the, or
We could, because Natalie's.
it's probably the easiest, isn't it? Sorry? Hello, we're back from our executive session of the Government Affairs Legal Matters Committee. We received a briefing from Council regarding settlement of claims for the airport guideway and station segment. We reviewed the proposed settlement and the term sheet, went through it in some detail. We were happy with the settlement by and large and the term sheet, and congratulations to both the Hart staff and our legal team, Kathleen, for hard-fought negotiations. So at this point, the next step for this matter is to go to the Project Oversight Committee, and so I'll entertain a motion if anybody has one. We're recommending it goes to the board. Thank you. And a couple of housekeeping matters. Michelle Brungraber is with us now, and so she is taking her place on the Government Affairs Committee, and the chair, Colleen, who stepped in, thank you, Colleen, for doing that, is stepping aside for the sake of vote purposes and what have you. Do I hear a motion? And Edwin's seconds.
Edwin doesn't vote.
Oh, no, yeah, you can't, Edwin. Nice try. Roger seconds. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the motion is approved. Thank you. So that concludes the business of this committee, and so we are adjourning at 9:45.
Good morning, everybody. This is, we're going to convene the Committee on Project Oversight. Call this meeting to order at 9:45. Begin with roll call. Chairs present. Vice Chair Michelle Chun Brungraber.
Present.
Anthony Alto.
Present.
Art Tolentino, excused. Ed Sniffen, excused. Robert Yu. Thank you. Also, want to note the presence of Chair Colleen Hanabusa, Roger Morton, Edwin Young, and via Zoom, Natalie Iwasa. We have one item on the agenda, the review and action on Chimic trailer granite change order. First, I'd like to ask if there's any public testimony on this agenda item, either in person or via Zoom. Do we have anybody listed for testimony? No, seeing none. Okay, so this matter was previously discussed in the Government Affairs Legal Matters Committee, and it was referred to the full board for approval. The POC, this was done in executive session of the Government Affairs Legal Matters. So the POC committee recommends that this issue be also referred and recommended for approval to the full board based on the agreed upon change order amount that was provided in the settlement agreement. Is there any discussion on the recommendation of the POC committee? Is there a motion?
Chair?
Yes, Natalie?
Yeah, so I just have a question. I thought I heard you say that the discussion was in the committee, the prior committee meeting. And so just for clarification of procedural purposes, what exactly are you doing now? Are you asking for a motion to recommend? I mean, it's just not clear. You had a prior committee meeting and now you're having another committee meeting. So just want to clarify the process here.
Yeah, I think, Natalie, I think it's the POC committee's judgment that, we really don't have any legal issues or legal questions to ask in executive session. So we're just moving forward with referring this matter to the full board for further consideration. And I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe there's going to be some discussion and public disclosure at the full board level where anyone or the public can weigh in on the issue itself.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Kiko.
Okay.
And if I may,
Yes.
Chair, Natalie, this is Dan. So at the conclusion of this meeting, before the board convenes, we do intend to post online the settlement agreement and the term sheet. So you'll have that to review.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion and a second to recommend for referral? Thank you, Robert.
I'll second, Chair.
Thanks, Anthony. Is there any objections to the motion? No objections. Motion is approved. That's the only item on this agenda. This POC committee is adjourned at 9:44. Record time.
That's a record. That's a record. It is approximately 10 a.m. Thank you very much. We took a short recess while the term sheet and settlement agreement of the proposed resolution of our dispute with STG was placed online for everyone's review. First of all, I'm going to call the roll. Kika Pukalski,
Present Chair.
Anthony Alto,
Present.
Don Takeuchi Apuna is excused, Michelle Chun Moongrabber,
Present.
Natalie Iwasa,
Here.
Roger Morton,
Present.
Joe O'Donnell is excused, Ed Sniffen is excused, Art Tolentino is excused, Edwin Young,
Present.
Robert Yu,
Present Chair.
and the chair is also present. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have quorum. First of all, I'd like to call for any public testimony on all agenda items, and we will be calling for agenda item testimonies as we proceed on this matter. Anyone here wishing to offer public testimony on all agenda items or any of the agenda items? Seeing none. Any online? Hearing none. So with that, we will begin with the Executive Director and CEO's update. Laurie Kahikina.
Chair, board members. So, first, I know
Oh, before you begin, sorry, Laurie. Anyone here to offer testimony on the Executive Director and CEO's update? No. Any online? No. Sorry. Go ahead.
forthcoming direct agreement status update. So, thank you very much for holding a special meeting and approving the FFGA. So now it has been transmitted to the City Council. If you're ready to start reviewing, they plan on having it at committee the week of January 9th. And I believe it's going to be a transportation, but I'm confirming that with the chair because it might be an executive matters session. And then if it gets approved at committee, then it will go to full council on January 24th. And I did give an update to the FTA. They're here this week and they're well aware of the schedule. Whether there'll be a signing ceremony or not, that's still to be determined. Monthly update on critical positions. So you have the table in your packet and it's online right now. So the Director of Planning and Environmental, so we have put that on hold on the city side. And we're pleased to announce that we did find a candidate. He was here a couple of weeks ago that we met in person. We interviewed. Unfortunately, it's going to be coming through a consultant versus city staff. And he's going to be engaged. He's going to be physically here either the last week of January or the first week of February. The Director of Finance, we still don't have any good candidates. We did post the Heart Executive Officer for you folks, Cindy's position. Unfortunately, we have not had any candidates apply yet. As soon as we do, we'll forward it to Board Chair and Dan. The Human Resource Specialist, we did have a tentative offer and she has accepted. We anticipate her starting in mid-January. And then all the rest, there's really no update on those positions. For down on the consultant recruiting, as I mentioned, we have the planning director starting in February. The project controls director, you folks have met him. Oh, he was here earlier, Corey. We filled through a consultant, and then we promoted internally a project controls deputy director, Brooks Ford. So he started a couple of weeks ago.
Laurie, I have a question. Sure. So I started going down this little rabbit hole of telework, and I have the state of Hawaii telework guidelines, and it's only because when I started looking through some of the positions, it says no telework, like none. So I guess I'd like to give HR or somebody an action, because there are instances where, there's telework situationally, there's no way the freeway's closed, or there's major weather, or, there's an emergency situation telework. But there's also regular telework. And the thing that was kind of bugging me is we have consultants that we use that spend part of their time on the mainland and maybe part of their time here, and they do pretty much telework. And I just think that there might be some flexibility so that, people can schedule their days. Not everybody can do it, and not everybody can do it every day. So it might not be a regular thing, but it kind of was like, well, how come you can't do it at all, right? And so I wanted to ask you guys to take an action, to take a look at it again and see if there was something reasonable, because I do think that sometimes it does help recruitment and morale and those kinds of things, and it's difficult as an older manager for me to understand why everybody always wants to stay at home. It's so fun being at work with everybody else. But I get it. My daughter in particular just graduated, and I said, well, what are you looking for? She's like, well, I want a remote job. And we just started laughing, right? Like, who's going to give you a remote job as a first job, right? And so I don't think that that's reasonable for people to ask for that. But I do think that looking at it for emergencies or weather or those kinds of things, or on a case-by-case basis, or, you schedule your work and, you think you can do work from home today, then, you're an adult kind of thing for certain positions. And I think it might help with retention. I think what bothered me is that, people move. These government jobs are hard to fill. But, people are leaving for jobs that pay less. So, it's kind of bugging me. I'm like, well, gotta give something, right? So I was wondering if you could take a look at this more closely. And thank you.
So the FTA quarterly, like I said, they're here this week. So there's actually two individuals from Washington, D.C., Bruce Robinson, the Associate Administrator for Program Management, and Corey Walker. They were both here, including Ray Tellis, and of course Ryan is here locally, and the PMOC. So they did do a field visit on Tuesday for City Center utility relocation, and they're going out today, I believe, with Roger's staff at about 10:30 to go on the west side, ride the train, and then also get on the airport station to take a look at construction. So their feedback to the executive team yesterday was they're very pleased with progress. Of course, there is concern with City Center Guideway Station procurement, so we're both on schedule. They're worried about the schedule slip and the bids. So we're all crossing our fingers on the bids coming in close to our ice. And then, so to your point, Michelle, they did meet with me, and they are concerned about recruitment and retention. And so they had some tips. See what other agencies are doing. How are they doing? How are they incorporating, let's say, telecommuting? And then I met with our HR team this morning, and I want to have a one-on-one with Sandy. Like, what are some things that we can do? What are the other things we can do better? And Nate, Matt, and Vance, I met with them about a week ago to look at the 410 option. So see how we can 410s, how we can implement that.
Yeah, that's always hard because I'll turn my microphone on. The 410 is difficult because, you kind of want people in the office when they need to be there.
Well, absolutely. That's the plan they have to submit to me. We have to have coverage. We are not shutting down.
Right.
Department of Customer Services. So this is kind of a new program for the city, and Customer Services has implemented it, and it's actually for the public better benefits because now they're open on Saturdays. So you can renew your license, you can do your registration. So they've actually had more coverage by implementing.
Well, there you go. I mean, sometimes the people actually have great ideas when they're given some flexibility, right? And it just bugs me that the consultants that we hire that are paid more get to telecommute, sort of, and we the government people don't, right? And so I think that some of the work is flexible enough to look at doing that, right? Look at doing that.
So was
thank you.
Yep, that was a concern they brought up, and so we have to take a look at some of the bullet points that they brought up on retention and recruiting.
Yeah, I think it's not just critical positions anymore. It really is retention as well, right? I mean, it's just smaller, and we're getting smaller and smaller, and I don't think that we're unique in the Hawaii government, but I do think that some of our work is so critical, and the amount that we could be liable for if we don't do our job right?
FTA themselves said they are losing, and it's not junior staff, it's senior staff to their sister department, FRA, because they are 100% telecommuting. So, we're struggling across the board, right? All industries, but so they brought that up to me yesterday. We need to figure out how we can do better recruiting and retention. And like you said, it's not just the managers, it's all levels of retaining. Yeah.
Michelle Nunn?
I'm done. Thank you.
Roger?
Lori, if you took a 410, we would lose 50% of your time. Since I know you already work a 6-11 schedule.
I was going to say a lot of our staff already work 10 hours a day, so.
Yeah, but they don't have the commuted hour if you like work from home one day. I said 2 hours.
I have a follow-up question. When you say consultant recruitments, are you saying that, like, for example, they're being hired by HDR?
Yes, unfortunately, Chair. So the planning director is going to be our GEC.
And he's going to be, or he or she's going to be an HDR hire, and Jacob's hired.
Yes, and the deputy project controls director is also a consultant.
And is that another Jacob's hire or HDR hire?
Brooks is a sub.
HDR, no, he's HDR.
He's HDR. Okay. And the other question I had along the same lines is, I thought that even during COVID, you had a strong policy against working at home.
When I came in, COVID was starting to subside. So you're right. Hart was 100% telecommuting. Within the first 3 months, or April 1st, I brought everyone back.
Yeah. So they were telecommuting before, and then you brought everyone back 100%. So we do have a history of telecommuting.
Yeah, but like the vacancies say no telework, right?
Yeah, because I think in April when Laurie took over, she stopped all telecommuting.
It's kind of good to bring everybody back in like from the team again. I don't disagree that coming to work. It's just that I think that we just need like need a break and we just need some flexibility, and giving them some flexibility is it's sort of like, especially if you have professionals, it's not like you come in at 8:05 and like you get docked from pay. It's like roll in like between 8 and 9:30 and like you're good. Right? So
You're beginning to sound like a millennial.
I know, and because I'm managing millennials now, and I think that flexibility is what endears them to want to work for you, because you're giving them things that they're comfortable with, and it doesn't really impact your work. Like you said, sometimes it makes your work better, but you got to figure that out. It's a delicate balancing act, but it's worth pursuing, I think.
Okay, Laurie, continue.
So CCR4E award, I think Nate already reported on this, but this is really good news.
Are you done with the FTA quarterly update?
Yes, I'm done.
Okay.
Yep.
Check.
Yes.
I did have a question. So,
Your mic, please.
in terms of your overall staffing, I think the last time I looked, it was like 41 city contracts and maybe 5 or 5.5 and consultant hires, bringing it up to like 46 or something. Is that still about?
That's the HDR augmented, yes.
Okay.
But that doesn't include Jacobs and everyone else. That's assuming.
The general engineering consultant or all the sub consultants, but it does include that's the embedded staff though, would be at the 46 level, 47 level now.
That's what we report in our monthly report. So HDR is set aside as different than the other consultants. They are seconded consultants. So, but when you say embedded, Jacobs, Stantec, Lee and Elliott, they are embedded in our offices up here.
Okay. But what I meant was that your HDR staff kind of managed consultants, whereas the other consultants that are embedded are doing work for you.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct.
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is that we originally started with 135 city employees authorized.
135 positions.
Right, authorized. And then we were supposed to be at I think 50 some odd or 60, whatever. It was supposed to be at 60, and then went to 50.
Yeah, well,
And I think we're at 37.
What
What was it?
Right now.
Yeah, I want to say about 42.
I thought we were 30 some odd.
I think we're 42. I just got the report from HR this morning.
And what is our target right now in the budget?
Oh, yeah.
Budget, we have budgeted quite a bit of positions, don't we?
Yes.
Because remember now, the board's position has always been, we want to hire city employees because we want to build a group that can continue to you or what may become another definition of Article 17 of the charter. But we can't do that if we don't have a continuum of employees that we can take care of. That's our concern.
Of the positions you're recruiting for on this chart here, does that get us to like about 54 or something like that? 50?
We have 41 as of November 30th. 41 full-time employees. And then, yeah, if you want to count up these.
Because if you remember the PMOC report for the first time, it was entered July 2023, and the number 2 concern is our hiring and retention. That's the first time I've seen it pop up as a high major concern. And that is a concern that but we have it, because if we were going to build a group that we want to see into the future as part of the city and part of the future of rail, we have to make sure that they're all accounted for. And I don't see, I mean, these, quite candidly, these positions and the vacancies, you got to start to look at the numbers on the side as to how long they've been vacant. And you know, when you have almost 213, 272, and a lot of them are in the hundreds of numbers, that probably means we may not be able to, for some reason, we're doing something wrong because we're not filling those positions.
You might consider, depending upon what happens, looking at the skills that will be released by Hawaiian Airlines in about 6 months.
Oh my God.
Well,
Because
what
there's a
I'm
lot of
concerned
people that'll
about,
be looking for a job
Roger,
there.
what I'm more concerned about is losing people within Hart to Dry Dock
To dry
3.
dock, right?
That's what my concern is. Dry Dock 3 and the future dry dock constructions, those are huge out there. Dry Dock 3 is what, $3.8 billion. But we also have other dry dock projects in the works over there as well. So if we don't have any kind of a sense that we have a continuum and a need for the services and we're going to build on this, I think we have a problem. That's why I've always looked at the possibility that maybe what we need to do is create another transit type of thing within the city, and go and look at collective bargaining as well as Chapter 89 and figure out, okay, what is it that we can do to give people job security? But we have a problem. If we're gonna make transit an integral part of Hawaii's future and Honolulu's future, we need to start to build our own people. We can't be, with all due respect to people like HDR and so forth, we can't be hiring. It's at such a premium. For example, an HDR employee, how much over what they're getting paid are we paying in terms of premium? About. Yeah, it's huge. You could hire almost 2 people for the same amount of money. It's ridiculous.
Well, when we hire a professional and charge back to the federal government, I think that we assess about 180% overhead rate, even at the city, on a city worker, and maybe we become a profit center. I'm not sure, but when you look at the overhead and the fringe benefits, the rate gets pretty high. But I'm in total accord with your thought pattern there, Chair, and would love to look into that and work with you.
Yes, Kika.
Quick question. So, if we if I'm hearing the discussion correctly, we're talking about hiring more in-house employees versus consultants. Right now, we allocate a good percentage of our budget to capital costs. If we made that change from consultant to in-house hire, would that impact how we allocate those expenses between capital and operating budget? And would that impact our overall budget and how we can utilize certain monies?
Correct. So when we do the annual budget and we have the positions that we are requesting to fill from the board, we allocate a certain percentage to capital versus operating. Rick and I talk about this all the time. We feel everything we do, even if it's an admin staff, we have one goal. It's to build the project. So in our mind, it's all capital. But this was years ago when, gosh, it might have been with Robert, but the then BFS director working on the allocation of percentages of CIP versus operating. So we've kind of kept that the same. We switched a little bit more to capital, but yes, it affects. If you have a certain percentage of that staff salary on operating, it will increase slightly, but we have enough funds for that, and especially with the OTAT, because that is the funds that can be used for operating costs for HART.
Thanks, Chair.
Yeah, that's no different than how the DAGS operates in terms of the state. So if you have they're always, it's kind of interesting because city doesn't seem to do it that way, but the state, every engineer or person that they can attribute to a project, they do, because bond monies are a lot easier to come by than general fund money. So what Laurie is saying, I'm surprised that they're almost all not attributed. And all it is which pot of money you're going to draw from. It's not anything else. The city, with Act 1, made it clear, the state made it clear with Act 1 that administrative costs would not be covered by GET or TAT. But administrative costs is what we have to define, right, Robert?
Yes.
And so that when we look at engineers and we look at people working on the project, they should be, in my opinion, in the category of the CIP portion, which then taps into TAT and GET. What the state did not want is the administrative costs of HART to be borne by their TAT and their GET. And so that's been the thing. But I personally believe, as somebody with Robert, we worked on that whole Act 1, is that the idea, when we talk about administrative costs, was different than basically what you can attribute for everyone sitting almost over there as to where they are. But yeah, it is. But it doesn't affect it may affect our budgeting, but still the money is money. It's fungible money to a certain extent.
Chair,
Yes.
quick question. Just a quick comment on the recruitment and the open positions. So when I look at this project, the second phase is gonna open to Middle Street. Then we have from Middle Street to Civic Center. So it just seems like as the project gets smaller, whether we have to reevaluate the number of positions, the type of positions that we need just for that small segment that we're gonna build, because I'm guessing there's going to be some positions that you probably never will need because the project has 6 more years, hopefully, right? So maybe at some point, you could reevaluate and look at the positions and see which one is really appropriate for the last segment instead of, having 5 or 3 secretarial position. Maybe you don't need all that anymore.
You're absolutely right, Robert. So in the last budget or org chart that I presented to you folks, I did recommend eliminating quite a bit of positions. Maybe I didn't put it as an action item for you folks to vote on it and give me the authority to cut them. So right now I still have 135 positions, but there's no way I'm going to fill them or need them. So yes, we have done that analysis already, but it's constant. Like you say, we have to constantly evaluate it. Yes.
I don't disagree, except I don't want to see them filled by consultants when they can be filled by our own local staff. That's what I don't want to
To
see.
your point about the secretaries, Robert, I did eliminate many. So these are two that we had filled and they left. And so I'm trying to just backfill them. So right now, we don't have a secretary for the HR and finance group, and then we don't have a secretary for 4 different departments on the 23rd floor. So I'm trying to, right now, our existing secretaries are helping. Also with our consultant secretaries are helping. So it's unfortunate those 2 positions, 2 secretary positions, we made offers, and they decided not to accept at the last minute.
Yeah, this is kind of starting to really trouble me. I thought as we kind of focused on it, we'd start to at least kind of hit a steady state. But when I look at the date the position is open, and I count through it, we've lost like 15% of our people in the last 2 months. And so that's
Are you getting it from the
so
table?
like, look, the date position open, if I count everything, the 10, 13, 23 until 12, whatever, what day is today? 14, right? That's 2 months. That's 7 positions. If we have between like 40 and 50 people that we're supposed to have, that's like, I just double that and I came up with 14%, right? So I rounded it. But I mean, the truth is it's 7 positions that we've lost in the last 2 months. And so something is going on.
It doesn't necessarily mean these were positions that were filled prior. These are positions that the managers have requested to fill, and they were already empty.
This is the posting date.
These are the posting dates.
Yeah.
When the
So
managers came to me and said, "Hey, I need these positions," okay, and we went ahead and posted them.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's not entirely clear.
Yeah, I could maybe make a highlight.
Yeah,
So
I
like
mean-
the HR resource specialist, that one was really fast.
I mean, it feels like to me we're losing like 2 people a month. That's what it feels like, of existing positions. When I kind of like in my head, I'm just like, well, the last couple of months we've lost like a couple people every month, and that's still disturbing because it's still a pretty high number, and it's before Christmas, right? So you're like, people are finding other jobs clearly, or we're not able to retain people. So I'll retract my comment about the date the position open, if that is the position the date that the recruitment went out. But I do think that looking back, we have lost a couple people every month for the last couple months,
I think it's actually worse if that's the case. Because if it's not the posting date, it doesn't reflect the vacancy date, then, and if what Laurie is saying is true, which is this is the dates that when somebody or a department or whatever you want to call it, it says, okay, I need this position, and that's what's causing the posting. That means that position may have been vacant a hell of a lot longer.
That's true.
Yeah. So then that means that we have probably a lot of positions that may not, and that's what I think the org chart shows us, is that we have a lot of positions that are pukas, but this no one's standing up and yelling that I need somebody.
Right, because this time
right?
frame is we're doing existing work and we're supposed to be preparing our workforce and enhancing it to do the city center section, right? That's what it's really for. And instead, they're like barely treading water because there's not enough people, and we're not really recruiting in enough people to get them trained up in time to be prepared to work on city center. So, I mean, I'm not saying that this is not a more widespread problem, but it is something that we're going to have to figure out how to address, because in the end, a number of these are probably going to go down to consultant, and we're going to have to grit our teeth and figure out how to do that, because it stays open for 47 days, and then we're just like, okay, now what do we do? We need that person. We need somebody to do that. We're going to pay somebody to do that, right? And it demoralizes the workforce too, right? So, and in some ways, it exacerbates some of the pay differentials that we have between the government and the consultant people. And I mean, it's nobody's fault that the consultants get paid what they get paid. I mean, I'm nothing against them, but it does exacerbate, that difference.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
well, I was just in regard to what Michelle just said. To me, what's a problem? I mean, it is an extremely difficult environment to recruit in, nationally, not just locally. And people will jump ship to make more money. Where I have a problem is that we've lost people who've gone and accepted jobs at lower pay. And that really is a problem. And that's something that we do have to address.
I think what we as a board, we've set our policy. I think we've made it known to Laurie and to everyone that how we view the future of rail and the future of this organization and how committed we as a board are. So I think what we need to do is, and we'll leave it in Michelle's able hands as HR, we need to figure out what is the problem. The fact that the PMOC has now identified it as the number 2 major concern in the last report, July 2023. I don't know why it's taken them so long to recognize that. But let's look at that, Michelle, in your committee, I would think, and see what is it. To lose people because of higher paying jobs is one thing, but to lose people but then taking lower paying jobs, that's something else. But okay, Laurie, can we move on to
Chair?
CCUR? Right. Oh, yes.
Natalie. Yeah, I'm sorry, just one question, and this goes back to the
Hi,
date.
Joe. Joe O'Donnell has joined us. Okay, Natalie, go ahead.
A question regarding the schedule and the date position open for the Director of Finance that has August 2023, and the Director, as I recall, left at the end of 2022. So, Laurie, can you please clarify that particular?
Sure. So when Dean came on board, we were lucky that he had administrative services officer experience. And so he took on 2 roles. He was head of HR and he was head of finance. To find that kind of capability, especially with government experience, is very rare. So Rick and I were going back and forth trying to figure out, do we keep that? Do we make it just purely finance? And so there was a delay in posting the position and revamping the position description.
Okay, so that actually is the posting date, and it was just delayed
That was
because
just
of
the posting date. Yeah, it's not the vacancy date. And we did make it finance, but Rick and we met with our HR people this morning, and he wants to look at rewriting that position description, because we've gotten some candidates, but just nothing that raises to the level that we need. So he wants to try and rewrite it. Maybe we can have a better way of enticing people to come over.
Okay, thank you, Laurie. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Didn't Dean leave in December of 2022? Yes. So that's an example of the difference. Dean, the vacancy occurred December of 22, and the posting date is August of 23. So it's been vacant for a year. Both positions that he held. Okay. Next, any other questions? If not, Laurie, please continue.
Yeah, so I just wanted to highlight CCR 4E. I think Nate has mentioned that this is 4 out of our last 4 procurements that are the bids came in within our ICE. So just wanted to extend kudos to our estimating team there. And then the STG settlement, you folks are well aware of that. That's actually also kudos to our team for negotiating a good settlement with STG. They filed a lawsuit earlier on July 4th of July. The part was never served, but thank you, and thank you, board, for helping us get to that settlement and change order.
Members, any questions on any of the executive director CEO's update? Hearing none, we'll move now to the committee reports, agenda item number 4. And this is on both the December 14, 2023 Government Affairs Legal Matters Committee and December 1st and 14 Project Oversight Committee. First, anyone here to testify on these 2 agenda items? Well, agenda item and subsets. No, anyone online? Hearing none, let's hear from first Anthony Alto on today's Government Affairs and Legal Matters Committee. I'd like to call it GLAM, but the L is wrong.
Oh, it's so glamorous.
I know.
Thanks, Chair. As you say, we met this morning, your committee met this morning to review the settlement terms for the agreement regarding claims on the airport guideway and station segment with STG. And we approved a motion which has been forwarded to this board and will be taken up at your pleasure, Chair. That's our report.
Thank you. Any questions, members? If not, next Kika, December 1st and 14th, Project Oversight Committee.
Morning, Chair. Your Committee on Project Oversight met on December 1st. I believe the only item on the agenda was the monthly progress report, which we reviewed. As for the December 14th Project Oversight Committee, we considered the STG settlement and change order requests, and the committee referred the matter to the full board for further consideration and approval.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions, members?
Ms. Chair, Natalie.
Yes. Natalie?
Thank you. So that December 1st meeting was when it was all in person. There were some technical difficulties, and I haven't had a chance to check, but I was just wondering, was the video on that, was Olelo capable of putting the audio together with the actual recording that had no sound?
Yes. The audio isn't wonderful, but it is there and spliced together. So thank you very much to Olelo for doing that.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? If not, we are going to move on to agenda item number. Can I take 5 and 6 together? Or should I take it separately? I can take it together. No? I'm going to call agenda items number 5 and 6 together because of the fact that they both involve the proposed settlement of Shimmick Taylor Granite JV, or we call it STG, versus Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation. And it is civil number 1CCV-23-00000876. And in addition, agenda item number 6 is the review and action of the Shimmick Taylor Granite JV change order. And with that, is there anyone here to testify on this settlement and proposed change order? No one in the audience, no one online. So with that, members, we'll call up Nate Meddings and Kathleen Kelly, if they could. And as they make their way up here, just for the public, when we had the Government Affairs Legal Matters Committee, which had its as a single agenda item the settlement of the Shimmick Taylor Granite JV, as well as what we did in an executive session was the board was briefed on this, and it of course also included as part of the settlement discussion the change order. So having heard that, is there anyone here who believes that we need to go into executive session? And members of the public, the actual term sheet and the Exhibit A, which is the settlement agreement, has now been placed online, as is, I believe, the proposed resolution for action. And the proposed resolution for action is also posted online for the public's review. Now, anyone here believe that we need to go into executive session? If you do, please make the appropriate motion. Having no one here saying that, we will proceed with open session with Nate and with Kathleen briefing the board and the public on this settlement, this matter, as well as the proposed change order.
All right, thank you, Chair. Aloha, I'm Nate Meddings, Project Director. Do we want to start with the presentation, probably? Go through the presentation I posted. Is that the plan? Could you pull up that presentation and share, please? I'll briefly walk through it, try to hit the major points. But as the agenda item entails, there was resolution through mediation with STG Final agreement happened on October 3rd, and this is the result of that. We have a presentation teed up, I think, and then we have the supporting documents. If not, I can walk through verbally what the presentation would have said. I think give us a second to.
I've never seen that.
Okay. All right. I'll just walk through high level what it is. Essentially, the resolution of. I'll start with what the request is. So our request is to approve a $59.9 million change order for the resolution of all known and reasonably discovered claims with STG. This memorializes that settlement that was found through voluntary mediation on October 3rd. It took us about a month to get to a signed agreement as we were working through the details of the term sheet. But a little bit of background on STG. In 2016, we awarded their contract for just under $875 million. Their contract 8 years later, we negotiated a substantial completion date of February 29th, 2024. The ask is for you guys to approve the settlement agreement that informs the final change order of that $60 million for a total estimate at completion for $990 million. That is roughly 13% within the original contract value, which is deemed a successful design build in the eyes of FTA PMOC. Wanted to highlight that because I hope this represents us finishing as partners where we started. We're happy with the quality of the work out there with STG. There was a lot of change in managers on the STG side. I think that provoked some of this follow-on negotiations and ultimately the mediation. But we were able to get through that, come to an agreement, which is represented in this settlement, and we're leaving this thing as partners. Let's see, the total change orders for $60 million. STG gets 50% of that up front. We've negotiated the last payment for the final piece to be paid in 5 different elements. Basically, the turnover of each of the major 5 elements: the guideway, Pearl Harbor Station, Lagoon Station, the Airport Station, and Middle Street Station. Each of those elements are going to be treated as their own substantial completion date, giving us the information and documentation we need for the follow-on work with Hitachi and the DTS team. So basically, with that award in 2016 at $875 million, we've processed 55 change orders to date, mostly scope adjustments, changes to the overall scope and plan. This final change order brings us to that total value of $990 million, basically is our global settlement to the end. We aren't expecting to spend more money on STG. They've agreed to complete the project per our requirements for that dollar amount. I think there is a breakdown that's provided in the documents. I can't verbalize that. But overall with this change is a $20 million impact to unallocated contingency. There's a draw from that. This change, though, the overall $990 million falls within our original estimate at completion for this project. So during the recovery plan, we took the allocated contingency that was prescribed for this project and repurposed it for other projects, CCUR in particular. We did that as a strategy to get into negotiation because we knew they'd be chasing that overall EAC. Things happened to work out, but just wanted to be clear, this results in a $20 million impact to unallocated contingency, but falls within our $9.1 billion EAC. So there won't be an impact to the overall project cost. We can absorb this. The February 29th date falls within our Segment 2 schedule, and that is what we need to get to a mid-year 2025 opening that our schedule dictates right now. Apologies for fumbling through that without the presentation. I think the original request from STG was $1.046 billion all-in costs. They actually proved that was their cost of the project. We were able to negotiate top-down and come in with the overall value of $990. That was through a year, 16 months of negotiation, and then final resolution through mediation, like I talked about. I think that's it from the technical side. I'll open up to Kathleen if you got anything to add with that. If not, we'll open up to questions.
Just to clarify that the settlement amount, the change order amount is not just to resolve the STG lawsuit. That's one part of it. And the lawsuit will be dismissed once the payments are made. This resolves all pending change orders, claims, other matters that were issues between STG and HART. So it's truly a global resolution, and that's why it's reflected as an adjustment to the contract total as opposed to just an amount to settle the lawsuit.
I have a comment, Chair, because just for the sake of the public, this issue of contingency comes up. I'm not sure if people understand it. We make an estimate as to what we think a particular portion of a project will cost, and we sign a contract for that. But then the FTA mandates that we include, that we add, if you like, a 15% contingency. That's a national standard. And ultimately, this contract has come in at less than that amount, and it's nearly $1 billion altogether. So I see that as a success. I want to congratulate our attorneys and the HART staff for negotiating this. They negotiated a settlement which is more than $50 million less than STG was seeking. So I think this is overall has been quite a success. And what it does, I think, is it Nick, I want to comment on it, but I think it highlights the success of the design-build approach.
It absolutely does. So it is our most successful design-build project, and as you stated, the FTA has a minimum level of contingency nationwide for all design-build projects. Back when this was awarded, that was 15%, and so anything that comes in below that is considered a success. So thank you for bringing this up. This is below that threshold for a successful design-build project, and it was done through COVID, the Ukraine war, the highest inflationary escalation period that we've seen. Contractor was able to keep work moving through that and still supporting our segment 2 schedule.
Roger?
So Nate, when I do my simple calculation, it's about a 4-mile segment.
5.2.
5.2.
Yes.
$1 billion more or less. So 200 million per mile, the way the New York Times does their reporting. That's a pretty good rate compared to what I've seen in other articles.
Yes, we are happy with the work that STG gave us and how they approached the work. It got a little bit rocky at the end with some new faces. Would like to just reiterate, we were never officially served. That was attacked on the STG part. It got us to mediation, got us to the table, but I'm hoping in STG's mind that we're finishing this as partners too, and they give us just as good of a recommendation as an owner as we do to them as a contractor.
Yeah, I guess I'd just say good job.
Yeah, thank you. I'll pass it along to the team.
Any other comments? Questions?
Yes, Chair Natalie.
Yes, Natalie?
Thank you. Just a comment. You folks had your committee meetings this morning, and then the settlement, all these 3 big documents, important documents, were just posted, I don't know, not even an hour ago. And so I think it makes it really difficult for the public to try to weigh in, even for, well, you folks have obviously had a chance to look at this, but anybody who hasn't had access to those documents until now, it's just very difficult to try to make sense of it. And so just wanted to put that out there, that it's difficult for people to provide input if they haven't had a chance to look at it in more time to look at it. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Any other comments? Members, as many of you know, I followed the STG issue quite carefully, and that's because though he's no longer with us, this was John Moore's baby, so to speak. And like Nate, who's worked with him, I have the greatest respect for John from the first time that I was on the board. And I know that he represented somebody who understood what design build was about and also how this project could come in. So it's kudos to all of you, but also let's not forget John Moore, who had a very major role in shepherding this SDG matter, even from Florida where he was. So I do wish to do a cry out to him, who I think is important.
I'm glad that you said that, Chair. We actually reached out to Carol, his wife, and told him about the settlement, and this is the last of his legacy, right? So Kathleen asked why we were so persistent with this, and Scott and I all said, because John Moore's still watching us, we got to get this home. So thank you for bringing that up.
No, that's that's something that I think people miss, is that Hart is in Ohana, and we've had many people who have invested so much in the completion of this project, and to have the SDG segment, which I've always said is the best example that we can say that we've learned how to build rail, is kudos to all of you. And I did not want us to forget John Moore, who was an integral part of all of us from the get-go. Thank you very much. Members, any other comments? Yes, Michelle.
Colleen, I'm glad you brought up John. And I guess I want to say thank you to STG, because really all of our contractors and our vendors are partners with us, right? I mean, and like you said, it's in Ohana. And I think a lot of times we kind of treat them like vendors, right? Like you put some money in and some product comes out. But in reality, we all work together and we work really, really hard. And I don't think that the working relationship it's important to keep the working relationship, even though we might have differences of opinion and we might have legal matters outstanding. And so thank you to everyone on the STG team working really hard with us. Both sides are not exactly happy when you end a negotiation. So, we're squeezing a little bit and they're squeezing a little bit, but thank you to the team and to all the teams that work with us, though. Thank you. I just want to just make that comment.
Thank you, Michelle. Anyone else? If not, members, what we need for action is first basically an approval of the proposed settlement, which it's covered in maybe what we need is the passage of this resolution. Right? So you all have the resolution, very simple, straightforward, which is basically approving the settlement of Shimmick Taylor JV versus Honolulu Authority for Rapid Transportation, 1 CCV-23-00000876, which includes in there the change order amount of $59,997,575.89. God, they went up to 89 cents. And that, of course, will then be the resolution, as Kathleen has informed us. I do have a friendly amendment, but I don't know if, I think I'll do it by a separate motion, and that's to have him work on that provision of the settlement agreement. Yes. Okay. So we'll do the change order vote after, even if it's included in here? Yes. Yeah.
Under number one, it said recommends approval of
Okay.
change order.
So
Separate vote.
I stand corrected. So what we're going to do is we're going to first, members, move on the resolution that you have before you, which is the for the settlement. There will be another motion that I will ask you for the change order amount, and a third motion to appoint Anthony Alto, unless he really screams and yells, under Exhibit A of the settlement agreement under other terms 9. That's the parties, including Hart Board, shall jointly prepare and publish a mutually agreed upon media statement to be released after board review and approval of the settlement. So that would be a third motion that I would requests. So can we first begin with the first motion, which is the approval of this resolution? Can I have a motion? Robert has a motion. Edwin has a second. Any discussion, members?
Chair Natalie,
Yes, Natalie?
just a comment again that at the bottom it says attested by board executive officer, and I guess you'll do a friendly amendment on that.
Oh, yes. Okay. So we're going to put you? Yeah. Attested by the board attorney. Okay. Any other comments? And we have a friendly amendment on the resolution. If not, do I have unanimous consent? I have unanimous consent. Thank you very much. The next motion is the approval of the change order, which was the agenda item number 6 in the amount of $59,997,575.89, and it is referred to as the settlement change order. Do I have a motion to that effect?
Chair, I'll make the motion.
Kika first, and the second by Roger. Any discussion, members? If not, hearing no objection, that motion passes. And the final motion in this series, and I don't hear any objection, is that as part of Exhibit A is under other terms, the parties, including Hart Board, this is 9A, shall jointly prepare and publish a mutually agreed upon media statement to be released after board review and approval of this settlement. Members of the board, I'm asking that we delegate that to Anthony and give him full authority to enter into and then to prepare and publish and agree to a mutually agreed to media statement.
So moved.
Robert is a motion. Edwin is a second. Members, any discussion? Hearing none. Do you have any objections? Hearing none. Unanimous consent. Thank you very much, Anthony.
Thanks for volunteering.
Of course, I told you. All right, members, thank you very much. We have done that. So we're now moving to agenda item number 7, report on an independent financial audit. Any testimony on that? You can make your way forward. Anyone online? Thank you. So we will have the report done by Charles Gooden and Brett Lewis. Is that right? Members, it's in the folder and it's also online. Okay.
Good morning, Mark Lewis, Deputy Director of Budget and Finance. Today we welcome Lawrence Chu and Charles Gooden, auditors from NNK, Hart's external auditor, who are here to present on the Hart financial audit. We thank NNK for their thorough work and presenting before the board.
Okay. Anything else? Do any of you? Does NNK have any comments?
Yes, I have a few things to cover.
Oh, please do.
Thank you again for allowing us to present to you today. I believe management sent over the financial statements along with our report on internal controls over financial reporting and on compliance and other matters. So I just kind of wanted to cover a summary of the financial statement audit. On page 3 to page 5 of the financial statement is our report. It is an unmodified report, so a clean report. No findings there. As far as the second report, which is the report on internal controls over financial reporting and a report on compliance and other matters, there were no material weaknesses identified and no instances of non-compliance or other matters that are required to be reported. If you have no questions there, I just wanted to kind of go over some required communications that we have as auditors. So our responsibility under generally accepted auditing standards in the United States of America and government auditing standards were communicated to the board and to management in a letter dated October 18th, 2023. As far as significant audit matters, so Hard significant accounting policies are disclosed in Note B to the financial statements. So that starts on page 16. During 2023, HART implemented GASB statement number 96, which is subscription-based information technology arrangement. The effect of this accounting change was to recognize a right-of-use subscription asset and subscriptions payable of approximately 2.7 million. We noted no transactions entered into by HART during the year for which there is a lack of authoritative guidance or consensus, and all significant transactions have been recognized in the financial statements in the prior period. Related to accounting estimates that are sensitive and significant, the most sensitive estimates affecting HART's financial statements were the net pension liability, post-employment benefits other than pensions or OPEB liability, construction delay claims, and then the right to use lease assets and related leases payable, and the right to use subscription assets and related subscriptions payable. We evaluated the key factors and assumptions used to develop the above estimates and determined that they are reasonable in relation to the financial statements taken as a whole. Disclosures that are sensitive and significant. The most sensitive and significant disclosures related to the net pension and the OPEB liability, and then also the disclosure of delay claims. The financial statement disclosures are neutral, consistent, and clear. We're pleased to report that we encountered no significant difficulties in performing and completing our audit, and that's a testament to the good work being done by HART management. As far as corrected and uncorrected misstatements, none of the misstatements detected as a result of the audit procedures that we performed, which were corrected by management, were material, either individually or in the aggregate, to the financial statements taken as a whole. There were no disagreements with management during the course of our audit. There will be a representation letter, so some representations that we require management to provide to us prior to the issuance of our report. That letter, which has been provided to management, will be dated the same day as our report. So depending on when the financials are approved, either hopefully today or if not today, then tomorrow. As far as consultations with other independent accountants, there were none that we were aware of. Other audit findings or issues, we generally discuss a variety of matters, including the application of accounting policies and auditing standards with management each year prior to the retention as HART's auditors. However, these discussions occurred in the normal course of our professional relationship, and our responses were not a condition to our retention. And then just other matters, for the required supplementary information, or the RSI, that supplements the basic financial statements, we made certain inquiries of management regarding the methods of preparing the information and comparing the information for consistency with management's responses to our inquiries, the basic financial statements, and other knowledge that we obtained during the audit of the basic financial statements. We did not audit the RSI and do not express an opinion or provide any assurance on the RSI. Any questions on any of the required communications? None.
Members, any questions, comments?
Chair?
Yes, Natalie.
I guess this applies. This is regarding the letter to the board. And in there, the last paragraph is a restriction on use of the statements, that it's meant for HART use only. And I understand why that's put in there for private companies, because you don't want them giving out those statements and having somebody rely on them without understanding the underlying statements themselves. But I'm just wondering, it seems a little weak, because these statements are provided to the public. And so I was just wondering if the auditors could address that issue.
Do you understand what's being asked?
I believe it's related to the last sentence of our concluding communication letter, that is the restriction on use.
And I'm not quite sure what it is that you're asking them, Natalie. Why it's there, or whether it's necessary. What is it that you're asking?
So basically, it says that we understand that the audited statements are only for HART's use, and I don't remember the exact wording, but the public has access to statements. The legislature may use the statements for their information. The city council may use them. So to me, it just doesn't mean anything. So I was wondering if the auditors would explain from their point of view what that restriction actually means and what their intent is.
So the way that the auditing standards require certain paragraphs within our audit report is formed by the Auditing Standards Board, and so this is pretty much standard language regardless of whether it's a public entity or a private entity.
And when did you have a clarification on this?
Yes. If you look on page 3 of the independent auditor's report, the second paragraph, in our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of HART. That's the best you can expect from any type of audit report.
Natalie, do you have any follow-up on that?
Yeah, I understand the auditor's position, and I don't have the wording in front of me. I apologize. It just seems like because statements are available to everybody, it doesn't make sense to put that in. But I understand they're required to do so.
If I'm reading this correctly, it's what you're just simply telling us that when you prepare this, it's intended for our use. What we may do with it, you have no control over. So we make it public, so it's makes sense? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, members? If not, we don't need to take action on this. Do we need to take action on this? Do we need to accept the report? Does it go any further than us?
On your signature and the signature will be submitted to DFS.
BFS?
Which
is this all part of the CAFR or the CAF, what we used to call CAFRE?
This will become part of the annual comprehensive financial report for the city.
Okay, that's what why did they change the name, Edward? Do you know?
Someone took exception to the previous acronym.
Okay. He and I were on auditing things together, and so he's my guru on audits. All right, so you just need my signature and what Laurie's signature that this and goes on to BNF. Okay, members, I guess I should, just to be clear, receive your permission to sign on. So can I have just a motion to that effect that the chair is authorized and the executive director is okay. Moved by Edwin, seconded by good old Robert. Yes, all our auditors are on board. So any other questions, comments, discussion? Yes.
Sure. Yes, I do have some other questions. I thought we were just talking about the communications. So I have some questions on the audit itself and the document that includes the management analysis.
Okay.
Several. First of all, in the management analysis, the fiscal year 2022 is restated.
Can you tell us a page? It'll be easier for us. There's a management and discussion analysis that begins on page 10. Is that what but it goes on, starts at 6, I think. So is there a specific page, Natalie?
Okay, so it starts on page 8, where it starts with the condensed statement of net position.
Okay.
It says 2022 as restated, and so I'm just wondering what was the restatement, and then there are several line items that don't agree to the 2022 audit. So I'm just wondering. The difference that I found in the assets, for example, was about $2.7 million in the capital assets. So can somebody explain what was restated and why there's a difference still between those numbers and the final audit from last year?
Just so that I'm clear, on page 8, the 2.7 Are you talking about the decrease from 2023 to 2022 as restated?
I'm talking about the middle column where it shows as restated. And so,
Right.
for example, on the capital assets net line item, it's about 5.1. I guess that's billion because it's stated in thousands. And the amount on the audited statements from last year was 5.1 billion. So there's a difference of about 2.7 million.
Yeah, the third column says that that's a decrease. Okay, do you understand where we're at? Okay, would somebody like to respond to that, please?
Sure, I'll respond to that. So the reason that the 22 amounts are presented as restated is related to the implementation of the SPIDA standard, which made it necessary. If you look on page 9 in the capital assets table there, that last line is the subscription assets net, and so the exactly the 2.7 million that you're questioning is that $2.7 million there for 2022. And so the condensed statement of net position includes additional assets of 2.7 million along with additional liabilities of 2.7 million. So the total net position did not change. However, additional assets and liabilities were brought onto the books.
Okay, got that. Thank you. Yeah, so the offsetting part to that 2.7 million is in current liabilities and long-term liabilities. And you mentioned that the net position does not change, which is why there was no need to restate anything with respect to the beginning net assets. Okay, got that. On the balance sheet, would you please remind us what is included in equipment and machinery of 171.5? I forget if that's millions or thousands, hundreds of thousands.
So where are you again, Natalie? Just so everyone else can follow you.
Okay, so that's
what page?
That's on page 11. Equipment and machinery down about halfway. Is that just like office equipment or what is that?
You mean the equipment and machinery of 171,540? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, that's fully depreciated.
I'll perhaps we don't know. We can definitely get back to you on that.
Any other questions, Natalie?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. What was the answer?
I'm sorry. We will get back to you on that answer.
Okay, and trains are being depreciated or estimated to have a life of 25 to 35 years. It looks like the trains are included in construction in progress. Is that correct?
Anything related to the project is still sitting in construction in progress, and they don't start to get depreciated until they are transferred to the city. And once they're transferred to the city, they are no longer on HART's books, so they do not get depreciated while they're still being constructed with HART.
Yeah, so I just wanted to confirm that the trains are included in construction in progress, and I'll follow up on the city side. On page 24, note D, talks about the general excise tax and transit accommodations tax receivable. And this is probably just a question for follow-up in the Finance Committee, but the amount of the transient accommodations tax receivable is $62 million per the audit here. But the most recent cash flow spreadsheet that we were given, the amount was about 21.3 million plus about 8.2 million city. And so there's a quite a large difference there of about 32.5 million. So perhaps we can have the Finance Committee follow up on that.
This This is Brent. I can tell you that the TAT includes the state and the local TAT. It's a combination.
Right. So there's a difference of about 32.5 million. As I said, I think we need to follow up with that in the finance committee. Okay, so the transfer of assets, that was Park Guideway, 9 stations, 12 4-car trains, center. I just wanted to confirm these were all transferred at cost. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? We couldn't hear you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't hear you. So I'm just confirming that the transfer of those assets from Hart to the city, that was all done at cost, and there was no depreciation had been taken on any of those items, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then I don't know how much you auditors have followed discussions in the Hart board, but we've had some discussions about bond premiums and how they're reported. Now, we didn't have any bonds in this fiscal year, but it is included in the fiscal year 2022 on the management analysis. So I'm just wondering if you would explain to the board how bond premiums are reported in the audited statements so that we all understand.
Anthony?
I'm just wondering what page you're looking at, Natalie.
I guess we would have to go back to the management analysis. And I don't even know, I think they're not specifically stated separately. That's part of the reason I'm asking, because in the cash flows, they are separately stated as an inflow item. So I'm just wondering if the auditors can explain how they are reported in audited statements.
On page 10, there is a section called long-term debt. And are you saying in there, Natalie, that that it says Hart relies on long-term debt, specifically general obligations fund, to fund the cash flow needs of the construction? Total bonds outstanding as of June 30, 2023 totaled $1.008 billion. No bonds outstanding are structured such as the bonds will completely be retired by 2031. The bonds are structured. No new bonds are issued during the fiscal year ending June 30, 2023. At June 30, 2023, there was no outstanding TECP, or what we call commercial paper. So I guess I'm reading that as saying there were no bonds in 2020 up to fiscal year 2023, and there are no TECP for fiscal year 2023. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So, Natalie, none was issued. So are you saying that somehow it should be reflected even if none was issued? Because
No, that's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is if the auditors would explain how they are presented in the audited financial statements. So, for example, I apologize, I don't have the 2022 audit in front of me, but is the bond premium shown as an inflow on the cash flow statement? Maybe that's an easier way to put it.
If I may clarify.
Yes.
Financial statements are prepared by the Hart management. The auditors only go into the tests and to verify the accuracy of the financial statements. It's not their responsibility to explain the contents.
Thank you.
Okay,
I see Rick Keen.
Yeah, I think I can explain Natalie's question. On page 42 of the financial statements and long-term debt. Microphone. Oh, sorry. On page 42 of the financial statements, under the finance of the city, with a summary of outstanding general obligation bonds.
Right.
In each of those, it includes the unamortized premium.
Okay, yeah, I see that. So
In the cash flow statement, when we do an issuance of bonds, and if we have a premium, we do show that as cash, because we receive that cash. In the audited financial statements, that upfront cash that's received as a premium is amortized against interest expense over the life of the bonds. So there's a different purpose between the audited financials and the cash flow statement.
okay, yeah, I understand that. Okay, scrap that question, okay, because I'm not getting what I thought I would get. I also wanted to ask about if the auditors would address the issue of potential fraud and what their responsibility is, because I think there's maybe still a misunderstanding of the importance of having the internal audit function, and some people, and this goes out even to the public, think that external auditors will be looking for fraud and that they are responsible for finding fraud. And anybody who's read these documents knows that that is not the case, but I would just like to hear it from the auditors what their responsibility is with respect to if there's potential fraud in the part or that relates to the financial statements.
As part of the auditing standards, we're responsible to look for material misstatements, whether it's caused by fraud or by error. So we perform procedures to address those risks.
Okay, so you're not necessarily looking for fraud, but as I recall, you do need to brainstorm potential ways that fraud could occur and then consider that in planning your audit. Is that correct?
That's correct.
But it is up to the board and management to make sure that we have the controls in place that would help reduce the risk of fraud, waste, and abuse, correct?
If I may clarify.
Yes.
If the auditors, independent auditors, suspect fraud, it would be reflected in their opinion statement on the financial statement, which would mean that we would not receive a clear opinion. We would receive a conditional or no opinion on the financial statement.
Do you agree with what Edwin just said?
Who are you asking?
The auditor who responded.
Oh, I can't hear him sometimes. Okay, thank you. And then the last thing I just wanted to point out is and this is the audit report, so it's not our thing, it's the auditors, but there's an extra space, page 4 of the audit opinion under the auditor's responsibilities, under the third bullet, there's a space before the period. And that's all my questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other members? Any discussion? No, we are in discussion. We do have a motion pending, and this was just so that everyone recalls, it's the motion which authorizes myself and the executive director to sign this audit report and send it off to Budget and Fiscal Services. Any further discussion? If not, I know we had a motion made by you, Robert?
Yep.
And seconded by Edwin. So it's been moved and seconded. No other discussion? Do I have unanimous consent? I have unanimous consent. Thank you very much. Brent, please prepare the documents for us. Thank you very much. Thank you, members. We are now moving on to agenda item number 8, which is the Hart Board Executive Officer vacancy. Michelle, it's up to you.
Okay, I'll just give a status. We have not called the pig to order, but I do have a draft of interview questions when we get a candidate. The vacancy has been open for 2 weeks, and it hasn't transferred over to the city and county site. I think sometimes that takes some time, right, Lori, for them to pick it up. Is that correct? Yeah, so we're still waiting for that. If you could just have somebody check, because I checked today and it's still not over there, but it does take some time for them to reflect it so that they get a wider audience. And I think once it's on the Honolulu City and County site, it'll get scraped from the internet and get put into these GovJob sites and stuff. So we really kind of want it out there in the City and County one, because that's where it gets scraped from, because it's not getting scraped from the Heart site, really. But that's pretty much the status, and we're still really hopeful that we're going to get an applicant soon. Dan's very hopeful we're going to get an applicant soon.
We're hoping to give him a good Christmas present.
We're hoping to give him a good Christmas. But it is, I do think that we're going to get a better, we might get a much larger audience once we get it onto that city and county site, right? So, okay, that's the only status I have. Anybody else?
And by the way, before I forget, and I failed to call any person wishing to testify on the Heart Board Executive Officer vacancy. Seeing no one in the audience, no one online. Sorry. Thank you very much. We don't need to take any action for you, Michelle. It's been a report. Any discussion among the members here? Any questions for Michelle? If not, thank you very much, and hope us good luck in doing this.
Yeah, comment. That's it.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is the update on the Eva Drum site, which is agenda item number 9. Anyone here to testify on agenda item number 9, the Eva Drum site? Anyone online? No one? Roger.
So this was a transaction to transfer the drum site in an exchange with the Department of Hawaiian Homelands for what's colloquially called Verona Village. Just an update as of November 13th from Deputy Corporation Counsel Cynthia Cheng, which I'll try to relate, that the items that have been completed include the amendment to the MOA. Also, City Council approval was given in the form of Resolution 22-131. Items that are still in progress include the land exchange proposal. Preliminary review by the Department of Interior is required for a Phase 2 review. DHL has ordered Phase 2 from Bowers and Kubota. And that's expected to be completed by April of 2024. Then the actual land exchange proposal package submission will be forthcoming following Phase 2. The Department of Interior approval would be expected within 60 to 90 days, and the update of title would follow. So I think that we're looking for, as of November 13th, we were looking at about a 6-month period that would hopefully bring this matter to conclusion. I think that I did confirm with the Department of Fiscal Services that the $400 and something thousand, which was the difference between the value of the Verona Village parcel and the Navy drum site in favor of Department of Hawaiian Homelands, which was approved by the City Council, has been encumbered. So I was assured by BFS that funding will be available upon conclusion of the matter.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Yes, Robert.
Chair, just for public purposes, maybe we should explain what this Eva Drum site means.
Sure. The drum site is the site in which the rail operating center and yard was built on. It overlooks Pearl Harbor. It was, as the name implies, it was previously owned by the Navy, and it was used as a site to dispose of drums from whatever was in those drums. So it was an open, it's a sloping piece of land. It has been converted over many years. It has been converted to the rail operating center where the trains are stored and where the maintenance facility is located.
Any other comments or questions?
Yes, Chair Natalie.
Yes.
Okay, so I still cannot believe that Hart built this whole operations center without owning the land underneath it. I mean, I think that's totally irresponsible, but that's in the past. And I'm just wondering, just confirming that we have no other like guideway areas or station areas that are not under our direct ownership.
Just to clarify, the drum site, I think, was a city and county site, not necessarily a Hart site, and it's why the Department of Transportation Services was lead on that transaction.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. But there are no other properties like this, correct?
I'm not aware of any. I don't know if the executive director is aware.
I'm not aware of either, Natalie.
Thank you.
And Roger, to be perfectly clear, the city doesn't own the Everdrum site at this point in time.
The transaction has not closed. Closing is expected within a 6-month period. But I obviously, a right of entry was acquired and there was legal access to the property.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you for the status update. We are now going to go to agenda item number 10 with the CCUR traffic impacts. Anyone here to testify on agenda item number 10, which is the CCUR traffic impact? This is infamous Dillingham Boulevard. Anyone online? Okay, good. No complaints. Hey, Nate.
All right, aloha. I'm standing in for Joey Manahan. He is representing us on the FTA tour right now. They're taking a tour of segment 1 on the alignment, then doing a drive-through tour of the airport section, stopping at the airport station, doing a boots-on-the-ground walk with FTA headquarters in Region 9. So excuse Joey. I'm here to speak to the next 2 agenda items for the CCUR traffic updates. He gave me no major news or anything to report, which is a good thing in that regard. Traffic impacts are ongoing. What's out there is going to be out there for a long time. We continue to work with businesses, adding that business access signage and trying to help for the flow of traffic. You know, that's a continuous operation and iteration with the local businesses in the community. Anything else on business report? Make any changes recently? So we have those blue business access signs up there. Okay. And then I think the biggest work out there that's starting that's new over the last month is the micro tunneling under the Kapalama stream. They're digging 2 pits on each side of the stream, and that's so they can bore these 48-inch diameter tunnels essentially under that stream. So that actual micro tunneling work will start in January, but that is critical path work there. So if you see that on the UH campus side, under that Kapalama stream, the canal, that's what we're doing. So that is probably the major work item that started over the last month.
And what's the purpose for that? You're tunneling for what purpose?
So that's to run utilities underneath.
Utilities.
Yes. So there's a dedicated HECO line, and then there's some spare conduits, and then dedicated other utility lines.
And what size did you say that bore was?
48-inch, I
That's a
believe,
big
and
bore.
2 of them. I think 2 of them. Yes. The old plan before the Malka shift included widening of that overpass, and that's a historic bridge, and it was going to be very expensive and cumbersome. So when we did the Malka shift design, we designed it to microtunnel under it. And actually, probably the premier jet gravity microtunneler is Coluccio, who's a sub to NAN, but our prime on downtown. So we are very in tune with what's going on there. But so that was part of the Malka shift, and all that savings was not touching that historic bridge going underneath.
Yes. Michelle.
Okay, I'm a townie, and the Evie Lake Costco is my hood. So I will give everybody the what's really going on. It's actually easier to get to Costco than to find a parking space. Okay, so you have finally hit the milestone where it is faster for me to like get onto Dillingham, make my turn, get into Costco or get gas. It takes me longer to find a stupid parking space at Costco than it takes me to like get down there. So good on you guys. There's a lot of bull-headed trees. They look like they're going to survive. They needed to get.
Boy, that Kiko, when you say that.
They needed to get done. Oh, I'm sorry. But, you know, I mean.
First time.
Yeah.
He pointed at you.
But, yeah, I mean, those trees, the ones on the back in the campus, they did some serious hacking to them. But, you know, they look fine. So it was more just disappointing when we took those big trees out in the sidewalk. We couldn't dig them up or anything, so they just got chopped. But thank you. I mean, I would tell Joey the same thing, that the traffic seems to be working it's working well.
Great feedback. Thank you.
Anyone else? No? Thank you very much. Now, agenda item number 11 is the acceptance of a gift from Move Oahu Ford in the amount of $2,252.20 for conference registration fees, airfare, and lodging to attend the 2023 MPAC conference held in Phoenix, Arizona from November 5, 2023 to November 8, 2023. First of all, anyone here to testify on this agenda item? Anyone online? Hearing none. It's all yours, Nate, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. So Joey did provide me with better talking points for the Impact Conference. And so he went along with the OMPO director, Mark Garrity, some council member staff like Dos Santos, Tam Cordero, and others. All attended that event. The Impact event was focused around some areas of study. One was community-based ETOC, which I believe is the term for TOD, right? Equitable transit-oriented communities. So I think that's, something that Phoenix has adopted too. But they actually went around to those ETOC communities around the rail lines, looked at how they came about, how it's looking after each of the different rail extensions and streetcars integration. So Joey said that they got some good examples of ETOC development and could see how those long-term plannings went into effect around the rail. So it was good that Mark Garrity, OMPO council members were there. Also, one thing we wanted to talk about was Joey was able to get some form function of construction disruption funding examples. Essentially, Phoenix went through the same thing trying to make businesses whole through construction, found that was almost impossible to try to manage and roll out. And what Phoenix did was they created a nonprofit organization to try to manage that. Joey said he was going to follow up with some details and maybe do like a quick briefing for you guys once he's able to digest and put something together. But part of that was trying to understand how other cities have come together to manage that construction disruption fund. He also attended a lot of mobile workshops that look at ETOC in Phoenix suburbs where urban gardens are used as a hub to bring communities of varying social economic statuses together. I'll just highlight that downtown Phoenix was an area you wouldn't want to go to growing up. I never ventured there. And since that rail, the initial segment was put into place that goes from the edge of Mesa through the university to downtown Phoenix, all the sports teams are there with the exception of football. There's 2 satellite campuses there, Northern Arizona, ASU University, a lot of restaurants, nightlife, and Joey said that they were doing culinary events when he was there, and it was all centered around getting on the different alignments like the streetcars. And if you went to those events, you rode all day any of the transit systems for free. So Joey's going to come back, give you guys a presentation on all those above, but he wanted to thank you guys for voting to allow the gift and allowing him to go.
Thank you. Any other question? Roger, do you have a question or comment?
Oh, Chair.
Robert.
Yeah, just a quick question. no problems with the gift or anything like that. I just want to understand the reason Move Oahu Forward sponsored Joey's trip. Is it because we did not have a budget for it, or is it they just say, hey, you know, since we have some of our people going, if you want to come with us, we can sponsor you.
I don't know what triggered it, and that's why I apologize for coming to you folks after the fact. This was so last minute. Jen Sabah sent me an email that, hey, we'd like to take Joey with us, and so I don't know what triggered it. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, no. I was just wondering, is it a budget issue with us, or that's fine.
I'll try to answer that question for you, Robert. I was supposed to represent the board, but because Phoenix is basically a light rail system, not a guideway system, I opted not to attend the conference.
No.
Yeah, and this is, if you remember, this was, we used to call the MPAC, I guess, Railvolution, and it was highly attended, not necessarily for whatever the structure of the rail was, but for all the other issues. And I hope that this is something that's part of the board's budget as well, and I hope that we're kind of last minute in trying to get people to go, but given the breadth of the topics that were covered, I hope that the board takes advantage of it next year and attends, because I think it helps in the understanding of exactly what we can or are capable of doing as the board. So, yeah, I mean, yes,
Yeah,
Kika.
Chair, my question was answered, but so typically these kinds of requests would come prior to? Okay.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Apologize, Kiko.
No,
Yeah,
just want to make sure
we were trying
didn't
to
miss something.
trying to get Edwin on to get all of his reservations and everything, and then that's when the email came in from Jen. So yeah, sincerely apologize, board. You folks are supposed to approve prior, so we're supposed to come up prior to you folks.
Down money, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Has Move On got any more money they want to give us?
Yeah, right. That triple zeros.
Just as a matter of perspective, my relatives live in Phoenix, and I was there. The growth in Phoenix has been very extensive, extending far out than what anyone imagined would have been the major part of Phoenix. A lot of it was due to the expansion of mass transit systems. So I again emphasize that for Honolulu, it will see a similar growth once the rail system is developed.
Roger.
I agree with that, but I think it's important that we all keep in mind that Honolulu has about the 5th highest number of high-rise buildings in the country, even now, even though we are the 55th largest metropolitan area. So with all due respect to the beautiful things that Phoenix has done, and some of the developments look really, really beautiful, you know, the idea of transit-oriented development normally is a density issue. And it's something that we've been a leader in for many, many, many years, for reasons of transportation, for reasons of topography, for many reasons that we've always had a very, very dense. I believe the corridor that we're putting rail down is the 3rd or 4th most dense corridor in the country, and it's just you know. So I'm all for making nice looking. TOD type developments, but TOD has been our trade for many, many years.
Yeah, I can confirm that the spatial or geographical constraints of Phoenix are far different than here. Doing true transit lines in Phoenix and Tucson, the challenges are far greater here from a density perspective, right? Arizona, you have the ability to urban sprawl and to plan and to build outwards. We're here, we're constrained. So I'll echo that and confirm that, Roger, live in it.
Any other questions or comments?
Well,
Yes.
I just draw attention to the fact that the governor's emergency declaration, a proclamation on affordable housing, that group is looking, of course, at TOD. They're looking at the rail route. So as far as I'm concerned, we should be saying to the community, thank God we built rail. because without it, where would we be putting these 20 to 30,000 housing units that the governor wants to build, and quite rightly wants to build? And you know, where I think we're all hearing reports back from the legislature. There are several legislators, obviously, who are pushing TOD, and they're looking at HART as the spine for that.
Any other questions or comments?
Actually, I'd like to
Yes,
add on
Edwin.
to that. If you take a look at what happened in Washington, D.C., no one went beyond Reagan National Airport. Now Tyson's Corners developed all the way out to Dulles International Airport. And so while transit-oriented development is a great motto, it's more than likely that the board should be addressing that issue for the future, either at the DTS level or the HART board level, as to what to anticipate for Honolulu.
I remind everyone that an effort by the WAM chair at one point was to take the TOD into the state. Because right now, with the amendment to the charter in 2016, TOD has sort of gone somewhere between DTS and DPP, and that is the issue. And I think that when you look at where we're going to go with TOD, there is no way you're going to avoid the role of the state, simply because they own all the major land that we're looking at. I think that I've always felt, for example, the first major TOD development should be the movement of OCCC out of Kalihi, and that area where the Middle Street Station is should become a major TOD development. So I agree that we've got a lot of high rises in urban core, which is sort of like crunching rail into an area that it's kind of not necessarily conducive. But when you start to look at Kalihi and going out back to Kapolei area, it's a totally different kind of development, and one that I think should determine where rail after Ala Moana should go. Because one thing is I've always said rail is transportation, yes, but more than that, for the next generations to come, it is a way of life. It is a quality of life, and that's what we got to start to look at. And that's why it's so critical to me that we, as the board, are positioned that we build on to where rail goes, and not only that, but we build on to the talent pool of the guys who have invested in rail, and we not lose it, is specifically because of that. So I'd like to see a concurrent development, as opposed to, I think what has happened to many other locations is that, you build rail, you stop, and then you plan. And at the end of the planning, to find that same talent that we had now is going to be almost impossible. So we need to do something concurrently. But yes, thank you very much for the report. Anyone else? Anthony?
I haven't formally told the board this before, but I should share that OMPO invited me to join their task force that they're planning for 2050, and so I'm bringing the idea of rail extensions to them. And the other thing I would add while we're talking about TOD is, obviously, our project is not just about facilitating TOD, it's also about helping close the social and economic gap between the haves and the have-nots on this island. And the more that we complete this, the more we'll be able to achieve that. My personal goal would be to see this system be so successful that 50,000 families could retire one of their cars. And if they were to do that, the savings would be $500 million a year, roughly, to those families. And, that's a message that I think we need to keep driving home, because the public is so fixated on quite rightly on the problems and the cost overruns, that they sometimes lose sight of the benefits, and the benefits are enormous.
Edwin?
I'd like to add that we can be like Singapore, plan everything in detail, and have some of the most beautiful Changi airports in the world, or we can be reactive like Hong Kong and have nothing but high-rise skyscrapers with a lot of smog.
So you're going to give us a report when you come back from Hong Kong?
I will give you a report, and I assure you, Singapore has its share of high rises as well. I've been to both places many times.
Well, maybe that's something about a benevolent dictatorship, right? Any other questions or comments? If not, thank you very much. I assume that we'll write some letter to Move Oahu Forward, thanking them for their generous contribution. And now we'll move on to, yes. Oh, we need a vote to accept that? Okay.
Chair, I'd like to move that we accept the gift from Move Oahu Forward.
Okay, second by Edwin. Any discussion? If not, do we have unanimous consent? We do. So thank you very much. Move Oahu Forward. And Lori, can you make sure that we send or have Joey, somebody make a thank you letter to them?
Yes, Chair.
Now we move to agenda item number 12, which is the summary of board member requests made during the December 14th, 2023 Board of Directors meeting. This is just a summary. First of all, anyone out there wishing to testify on this or maybe add? Anyone online? No one? Lori?
Okay, Chair, so what I have, so please correct me if I'm missing anything. So Michelle, look at the possibility of teleworking policy. Natalie, I hope you can hear me. On page 11, what is the 171,540, the equipment depreciation? And page 24, the TAT, the 21 million, the difference that's in the cash flow report versus the 62 million. Michelle, you check on the posting of the executive officer on the city website. And then Nate just mentioned that Joy should give a follow-up presentation to you folks on the construction disruption funding examples that he learned at Impact. And we'll write a letter to MOF to thank them for their gift. Did I miss anything, members? Okay.
Do we have like the list from last board of directors meeting so that we can check off?
Yeah,
there was. You can do it in the beginning and list it.
No. There was really nothing.
There wasn't any that we had actions on last time. Okay, awesome.
Yes.
I wasn't sure. I'm not sure whether it's the last board meeting or the last finance committee meeting, but we asked for a list of expenditures that we spend on the rock, as opposed to DTS responsible. The expenditures DTS is responsible for. We just want to see where our obligation ends with respect to the rail operations center and when does DTS start, right? I know there was some confusion as to, well, are we still paying some expenditures?
Not that I'm aware of. Like you're saying like utilities, let's say electricity, that kind of stuff.
Even things as simple as landscaping, anything that requires additional maintenance, exactly when our payments stop with respect to the rock. Did it stop as soon as the rail operation center was transferred, or was it sometime after that? And if it is sometime after that, what did we spend that money on?
With respect to the landscaping and items like that, maintenance of the rail, of the rock, that's a responsibility of the contractor, Hitachi. Neither the city nor Hart directly goes out and maintains those. And those are reflected in the O&M contract that we pay on a monthly basis.
Yeah, that was just a simple example. But I think Nate mentioned that there is a list that bifurcate their expenditures.
Capital?
Good. Capital. We just don't want to commingle the capital as.
Sorry, so if you want to put this on the agenda for next meeting, we can do that. I just didn't want to get into a discussion of that topic right now.
All right. Okay.
So why don't we put it on the agenda for the next meeting?
Wouldn't that be covered by agenda item number 12? My understanding was that we would take up items in a previous meeting and then have them reported back to us at this meeting. So I believe this item was brought up by by member Yu a meeting ago with a request that it be reported back in a next meeting. So how do we need to agendize those things?
Yes, we do. So this agenda item 12 is for to summarize what was discussed today to make sure we have a running list for next time. But next agenda, we would then have to put those specific items on the agenda.
Okay.
And then also, I guess this is not technically an update on the Everdrum site, so I don't think it quite fits there, but I think it's something that we need to know. So let's agendize it, and also, Nate, what you could do also is to give us a summary of exactly what's the cost that Hart has borne since inception of time, I guess, on the Everdrum site, and what will now be eventually, I guess, DTS's, but in the meantime, we have this interesting situation where it's Hitachi who's bearing the costs of a lot of the things at the Everdrum site, right? Because it's Hitachi's operations and maintenance responsibility, which is technically under you now. So, but it's still a cost. And I know, I think you remember, Nate, when I first got on the board, it just drive me crazy to see operation and maintenance costs in our financial plan, where I thought that operations and maintenance was no longer Hart's responsibility. So let's do all of that in the next, and they'll answer. And any other follow-up questions, can you let them know that you want answered?
Sure. Yeah. Nate will provide a list of expenditures. You know, like Chair said, the confusing thing is all the payments are to Hitachi, right? Even, you know, like Director Norton said, landscaping is part of the Hitachi contract. We just want to make sure things don't get commingled. You know?
So I guess my plan was to look at the 3 or 4 contracts that we have that span both design, build, and O&M, like Hitachi, Schindler, Innit for Fair Systems, and there's a few more, and then show you guys all the design build costs, and then how it's bifurcated and all the O&M costs.
Sure.
And that would be in addition, not just the rock, but like alignment wide. The rock is a little bit confusing because it's the only landscaping that Hitachi does.
Right.
Like at the stations, DTS does that, but for some reason, Hitachi does it at the rock. So that's the one. I'll provide that, put it together in a presentation.
And remember, the rock was originally a joint venture between Kiewit and Kobayashi. So when we talk about the construction on the rock, it was done through that joint venture. And the only reason I remember that is because we had the issue of the plits, and we had the issue of everything, the spacers, ultraviolet being the killing all of those spacers between the rail and the concrete, I guess. So yeah, so when we talk about, since we're going to get briefed on the rock, let's just be briefed all the way back, and just so that people know what happened. Okay?
Sorry. No, I was just going to say that this touches on a broader issue that I know there have been informal conversations. We can't discuss it now because it's not agendized, but I wonder if we should agendize it for a future meeting, which is the concept of merging DTS and Hart into a public transit administration or authority or something like that. Is that something that the board needs to discuss? And if so, should we agendize it, or is the initiative for that come from elsewhere?
Well, I guess the board could agendize it, and then it could be a discussion, which would probably result with a pig of some sort, right? Yeah, and eventually a charter. It will probably require a charter amendment of some sort, and on Article 17, because the Article 17 of the charter is called public transit. It's not Hart. It's not. It's called the Public Transit Authority. So. Yeah, so that's something that falls under Hart, arguably, of the board. But it is part of our policy. I read it as part of our policy situation. Michelle?
Yeah, I had a do-over because I remembered Lori talking about alternate work schedules, and that would be a good idea. So if you could study that in addition to the telework stuff and just roll it all together, so when you're ready, I don't know how long it's going to take you to look at that stuff, but any good ideas basically. But I do remember you talking about the alternate work schedules, and I think that I'm fully in support looking at that. Thank you.
This is all under what we would like to request. So, anyone else? Anything else? Roger, your mic's on. Not? Members, thank you. I do want to point out that just because I'm pretty sure nobody's really concentrating on this, the next committee meetings are January 12th, according to our new calendar. So the committee chairs, let's look at that. And the next board meeting will be January 19th. So just so that you know that, and then check your email because Lori has given us the new calendar. It has all these nice colors. It took me a while to realize what was the board meeting, committee meeting, and everybody else's meeting. But yeah, but just so that it, happy holidays, so that will be coming, this thing will come up very quickly. It was originally the 5th, so you should be very glad that kind of got moved to the 12th. But yeah. Anything else, members? If not,
Just to wish everyone a happy holiday, or more appropriately, happy Holo Day.
oh no. Here he goes. I know, but he doesn't give us holo cards. He doesn't even give us a parking thing.
Yeah, we actually have designed a happy Holo Days Christmas card for our department.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
But he did design new holo cards for the holidays. But if you think you're going to get anything, keep dreaming. You're not going to get anything from DTS. Anyway, members, thank you very much. Happy holidays to everyone. Thank you very much for all the hard work, and see you in January. And hearing no objection, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Hi, everybody.
This has got to be 12 o'clock. To you.